my God, that is who you are. We make miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. That is who He is. Waymaker. This song reminds me of the time when God made a way for the Israelites. You know, it reminds me when Moses saw a burning bush, and he was curious because this burning bush was burning to a point where it was actually not being consumed. And Moses went, and little did he know this was the time that God had a plan for him. So I want us to talk about that story. There's a profound question that God asks Moses, which I want us to talk about today. Yeah, but going back to the story, you know, when Moses met with God, Moses, as he came closer to the bush, God called Moses by name twice. And Moses answered, "Here I am." And Moses, when he heard God introducing himself to Moses and instructing Moses to take off his shoes because he was standing on holy ground, and Moses hid his face. And Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. And God spoke to Moses saying, "I have seen the way the Israelites were suffering in Egypt." He says, "I have heard their cry and I have come down to rescue them." This is God talking to Moses. And then he tells Moses that I am sending you. I am sending you, Moses, to be the one that will go and save the Israelites. And this is the part where Moses doubted. He doubted. I could imagine this dialogue because Moses looks at God, not literally looking at God, but thinking, "You are sending me to Pharaoh, me as Moses." I mean, Moses was a shepherd. And yet God chose him to do what God was saying he was coming to do. And then the other interesting thing is, when Moses heard this, he then asked God, "So when I go and tell Pharaoh to release the Israelites and tell the Israelites that the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob have sent me, are they going to believe me?" And in fact, at that time, Moses didn't even know what he was going to say, who has sent him. Because he said, "Okay, when they ask me, who is this God?" And God answers, "You will tell them I am has sent you." And then Moses still says, "What if they don't believe me? What if they don't believe me that I have seen God and God has sent me to release them or to rescue them? under the hand of Pharaoh? What if they don't believe me? And God asks Moses this question that I want to ask each and every one of us today, which is found in the book of Exodus. It's found in chapter 4, verse 2. Let me read it. Let me read what God says to Moses. I'll start from verse 1. Then Moses answered and said, "But suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say, 'The Lord has not appeared to you.' So the Lord said to him, What is that in your hand?" What is that in your hand? That was what God asked Moses. And we know what happened afterwards. Moses had a staff in his hand. And God told Moses to throw the staff on the ground. And Moses listened to God and threw it on the ground, and it turned into a snake. And then he was afraid. Then God said, "Reach for the snake." And then when Moses touched the snake by the tail, the snake became the staff again. That was one of the 3 signs that God showed to Moses. And he said these words. He said, "This is so they may believe." So God gave Moses the sign so that whoever Moses is going to talk to, they may believe. What is in your hand? Maybe let's ask ourselves the same thing. What is it that is in our hand? What is it that God has placed in your hand? Because what God has placed in your hand has a reason, or there's an intention for it. Yes, now we might be using it for something else. Moses knew the staff as something that he used for stubborn sheep because he was a shepherd. And yet the same staff that Moses had in his hand is what God used so that the Israelites, anybody else that he needed to talk to, may believe. So God might have placed in your hand something. There's a gift that God has given to you. This gift might be a gift of love, a gift of giving, a gift of singing, a gift of teaching. It might be a gift of writing. Anything that God has given to you, I'm asking you today, what is in your hand? And use it so that others may believe in God. What is interesting in this story, Moses was shown other signs than the one that we have just discussed. He was shown the sign of leprosy. He was told about the sign of the Nile River. He could take water from the Nile River and throw it on the ground, and that water would turn into blood. These were all things that God did to show to Moses the signs so that the Israelites, Pharaoh, may believe. And strange enough, after Moses have seen all these 3 signs, Moses still says to God, hang on, I am not that eloquent. I am unable to express myself. So Moses feels inadequate after everything that God has shown him. And God reminds him. God asks him, who has given mouths? Who makes people deaf? Who mutes people? Who gives sight? And who gives blindness? Isn't it the same God? Now you will notice the things that God mentioned. Some of them, we look at them, we may say they are strengths and weaknesses. All of them comes from God. And God reminds Moses. And he says, I will be with you. He says, I will help you speak. I will teach you what to say. So, knowing what God has given you, knowing the gift that God has given you, you might feel inadequate. You might feel that you are not ready. And yet, God will be with you. God will teach you. God chose Moses knowing very well his weaknesses. He knew Moses' weaknesses, and yet he chose Moses, just like each and every one of us. God has given you a gift, knowing full well what you are capable of, what your strengths, what your weaknesses are. The second point I want to mention is God will provide a way. Because even after Moses was told by God that I will be with you, I will teach you what to say. Then there was Aaron, who Moses mentions that Aaron was more eloquent. He could speak. And yet God has already prepared Aaron, because they meet in the wilderness and Aaron recites all that Moses and God have conversed. So God will always make a way. He will prepare people that will help you. You might think, how am I going to do it alone? There are certain things that you need. God has people that he has prepared. There is one thing that needs to happen from our side. It is to do his will. Do God's will. The rest he has prepared. Moses did not know what was going to happen when he threw the staff on the ground, but he had to listen to God and obey, which is the same thing with us. Listen to God, obey, and do what he tells you to do. If he did not listen and threw the staff on the ground, he would not have known. Now we know when the story of the Israelites continue with Moses, the same staff, Moses used it on the Red Sea so that the Israelites may cross. So what God has given to you, there is a reason. There's a reason. Look at what is in your hand, what God has blessed you with. You might have been using it for something else, but use it listening to God and doing His will, so that they may believe, so that God may be glorified, so that all may believe in God, so that they may believe that He is the Almighty God, so that people may know we are nothing without God. I encourage you today, whatever gift that God has given to you, use it. If it is that book that you need to write, write it. If it is that song that you need to sing, sing it. If it is that business that you need to start, start it. If it is that shelter that you need to do to serve others, do it. Even the little that you have, God has blessed you with it so that those that are around you may be blessed and believe that there is a God. May you be blessed.